And welcome into our players-only meeting here on SportsSource.tv and our YouTube channel. It's brought to you by Blue Smoke Cigar. Best cigar club in town. I'm telling you, these guys are really good. They got a great selection of cigars, and you get 15% off Blue Smoke's elite selection of cigars. A lot of boutique cigars down there. Good stuff. 15% off when you get a membership with Blue Smoke. You also get access to their back room with all the personal lockers and the TVs, the HD TVs, and the card tables and the golf simulators. You name it, they got it. And you can also, if you got a cigar lover in your life, you can also go get them a membership as a Christmas gift. Blue Smoke Cigar, bluesmoke-cigar.com. I guess that's hyphen. Whatever. Blue Smoke Cigar. All right. Joined, we call it the Players Only Meeting because these guys are the players, and I meet with them. We got the VFLs, Brian Randolph, Will Overstreet, Daniel Hood, Sterling Hinton. I appreciate all you guys doing the show all year. It's a lot of fun, I think. And most of us enjoy coming in here for that hour and a half that we spend, 2 hours on Sunday morning. I appreciate you guys always being here, and I can always depend on you. It means a lot.
Well, it's an honor for me, John P. I just want you to know.
Well, we've got today, I thought let's just do a few more. There were plenty of tweets last night. We did a mean tweets segment in today's show, which I thought was kind of funny. We don't need the music here, but we are going to put up some more tweets to read through and have you guys react to. Some of these are questions, serious topics, and the like. So let's go ahead and start and look at You Said It, number one. John and Patty ask, is it as simple as getting the right players? Michael says, is it more Jimmy's and Joe's or coaching, or is it 60-40? And then Bob goes the other way. He says, offensive line, bad for sure, but trying to teach them a system they were not strong enough to perform nor ready for was a mistake, not to mention trying to stick with it and hamstrung play calling. This is not just the players. So we got, is it the players? Is it players or coaches? Is it 60-40? It's not just the players. Where are we, guys?
It's a lot as players right now. I mean, there's no doubt about that. You're a deficit in talent, and SEC talent for sure. And the one question there about saying, oh, the system for the offensive line. What system was this offensive line going to be able to block against SEC talent? I can't name one. That's the problem.
And they actually put in a few more zone runs. They went back to that.
Yep, they did.
Because they were like, okay, maybe they can do that.
Right, and they couldn't.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can't win one-on-one matchups consistently, I haven't got a lot of room for you. There's not a lot you can do. On the offensive line especially, you're getting beat just like a redheaded stepchild from the very beginning. I mean, it was just coming through that offensive line. You know, from the first play at West Virginia, you had a guy in the backfield. That never stopped.
Yeah, and you can't get away from putting the blame on the players. They're the ones actually going out there and getting beat, not putting in the effort. But I always like to come back to the fact that the coaches are making the big bucks, and that it's a great emphasis on them to get the players to want to go to a bowl game. You know, whether it's a great bowl or not bowl, they're the ones getting paid. I feel like at the end of the day, it comes down to them to make the boys want to play.
Players or coaches is the problem this year?
I think it's going to the players, and I just go back
All
to
of it, 100%, or is it 60-40? What do you do?
I'd probably say 80 to 90%. I think there's a little bit. I mean, you can't make somebody do something that they don't want to do, and I think that's the issue you got with this team. When you had the strength coach change from Dave Walston to Simpson, the team took over, and you got a lot of bad stuff that happened in there, and just continued with it. And it goes back to, you know, one of your offensive coordinators that's going to be probably coaching the college football playoff couldn't score 10 points at Tennessee in 2011. And
Jim
so,
Chaney,
and I mean, we even had some talent then. And so it goes back to, you got to get those players, got to get them developed. But your culture is the problem right now. And it's going to take a year or two to get all that out.
And it sounds like it's maybe a bigger you expect there to be an issue in year one. You also expect a lot of changeover before the season. As Jimmy mentioned during the show, you only had 3 or 4 guys that were gone during the offseason. That's small. Usually, you guys know that. You change coaches, it's usually a lot of turnover. You didn't have that this year. Maybe you needed it in year one because it sounds like there's more. When you got players, walk-on freshmen, coming out saying we got to get rid of some of the cancer in here and we're going to get rid of the quitters, and you have Shy Tuttle make a comment that, well, he's going to get guys in here who want to play, and Kyle Phillips questions how much effort people are giving. All right, it sounds like you got some real culture issues at the end of year one. That, to me, that's a little bit of a concern that we went a whole year and you've got culture problems that sound kind of serious now.
And I
I'd
think,
rather have heard this in September.
but I think I heard some stories that, and I can't quote, but from other people on the source that Pruitt went to some people and said, "You need to move on," but he gave them the option to stay. I think looking back on that, he should have said, "You can move on. You can stay in class, but don't show up to practice." I mean, I think eventually you have to say, "It's not your option anymore. We're going to take that away. If you don't fit, you don't want to be here, I need to move you somewhere else, but there's no option for you to show up at practice anymore." And that you have to do that with some people. There's some guys that are bad that you got to get rid of, and you have to make that decision. And I don't know if he did that.
But I think the thing about Pruitt though is he couldn't do it. You know, it's not like when Kiffin came in, you looked at our offensive line, we had depth that we could run off. You know, Will Brimfield and some of those other guys. Even when Dewey came in, we still had Aaron Douglas at the time and had those guys that we could go down to Juwan and those guys. If you run off someone right now in that first year with Pruitt, and you've only got just 2 or 3 guys you brought in, you couldn't do it. But now, where you're getting another class, you can start running them off.
You do the Gene Hackman Hoosiers. My team is on the floor.
Well, here's the thing. We talked about that. We talked about that during the show, though. I mean, that's part of the problem, though. That gets to what we were talking about in the show. People saying, well, purge, get them out of here. And I'm sure when I put up a list of possible guys that may leave, who knows? Some people out there were going, well, let them go. Well, these were your starters. We were off the camera. We were talking about an offensive lineman or two over there, and for all the talking, well, let him go. Really? He's starting. What does that tell you about what you got waiting to replace this player or that player? So that is a concern. Daniel makes a good point. How many of these guys can you purge?
Yeah, I mean, listen,
anyway.
like I talked about, there was a second-string player that got on the field last night, and I watched him, and I sat there and went, wow, I know why the 2 other guys are in front of him. I mean, because it was definitively like this guy is not even at the level they're at, and they're not top-level SEC players. It was 2 steps backwards, not just 1.
Sterling, is this all about getting new Jimmys and Joes in here?
It could be for the staff, but my thing is, no matter how good we were in college, high school, no high school player is recruited by every college. So not every coach likes you. That's just the reality. So when you got a new coaching staff coming in, the question always is there, would I have recruited these guys out of high school, and would I have come to Tennessee had they been here? So it's a lot of friction there, but just reality is that not everybody likes everybody at every school, and then everybody has a choice of where they go to school coming out of high school. So, of course, not everybody likes everybody, but I don't think the guys were as bad as, unfortunately, the scores showed, but I never had my toughness tested to be blown out more than once in my life.
Well, see that?
So I don't know. I don't know what happens to your psyche.
Your skill position, which you playing that position, you look at those positions. Like I look at line positions, he looks at skill positions. Skill positions, they've got talent. The line positions is where you're weak, and you don't have much talent.
Here's the thing, though. I don't think that you're right. They need more talent. But you can't tell me they are 25-plus points worse than 6 teams they played and lost to by that score. They're not 25 points talent worse than Vanderbilt.
And
now, go ahead.
That fact alone is why I say you can't put it all on the players. It's not just a player thing. We're not 25 points worse in talent, like you said. So when you go out there as a head coach, I think it's your main job to get guys to want to play for you. That's your only job.
But my thing is you are, because you lost to them. And it goes, to me, it's –
well,
talent.
I'm willing to put some on the
not,
coaching staff. That's just
well,
me, I guess.
But to me, I don't put it
staff.
on the coaching staff because I look at the guys out there that are playing, and you can see guys that are playing hard that care about it, and you can see the ones that don't. And the ones that don't, that is your new talent. You may be God gifted here, but if you don't care about it, this is who you are now.
Question for everybody here. If Dan Mullen had taken over, just an example. Now he took over a 4-win team at Florida, and he went 9-3 with it. Or any coach who'd coached before. Does this team lose 6 games by 25-plus points? I don't think so. I think part of that, and I said it all offseason, you've got a freshman for a head coach. Doesn't mean he won't be better than Dan Mullen in 5 years or 10 years. He may be spectacular. But year 1, you are going to have learning curves. I think your learning curve showed up in these huge losses. I think that's your learning curve. I think maybe not being able to How do I reach these guys? I've always been on a good team with players who are self-motivated and people who have a guy on their ass. If I don't play well, this guy's going to pass me. You don't have that now. So how do you reach these players? I think all of that has to be a role in this. There is no way in the world Dan Mullen comes here and this Tennessee team goes the same way. And if you put Pruitt at Florida, they're not 9-3 this year. That is not a knock on Pruitt. That is the trouble you run into when you make the long game hire and say we're going to bring in a brand new coach. This isn't Mark Richt taking over an 8-9 win team at Georgia. This is a first-year coach and who's never lost before, bringing in a staff that's never worked together before and never lost before where they were, and you're taking over a shit show. That is tough.
I mean, don't.
So that
don't get me
plays a
wrong.
role in my view.
I don't take.
In your view.
I don't take. I
You're
don't take
alone.
back. I do agree. There's blame on the coaching staff. It's just really hard for me to watch the front sevens and go, you're that much better with any coach. I think you're a win or two better. You could be with a different coach, but you're not dramatic. It's not like what people thought of the fan base of, Butch Jones is out here and there's all this talent's going to turn on. They're going to win the national championship and be in a playoff game. No, that's not what's there.
Before the season, the big rumble around town was, now you got real coaches with all that talent over there. You got all that talent. By the end of the season, it's like, well, you can't blame Pruitt. He's got no talent. Somewhere in the middle, the truth lies. I'm not big on extremes, and usually when it goes from all that talent to, there's no talent. There's some talent. There's somewhere in there. Again, I just don't think you lose 6 games. I don't think you're 25 points worse than Vanderbilt. I really don't. But here's the thing. You're right, scoreboard.
It's 2 years in a row.
Yeah. 3 years in a row.
Well, I'm talking about
Don't
20
remind
plus points. And
Of course,
not
here's the thing, though. That team quit last year. That team quit this year. How do you keep a team from quitting? Can you? There's no answer to this that we can prove. But anyway, let's move on.
It starts with your strength coach. And
Yeah.
it's just like
We
we
have a
both
whole
had
year with them now.
that. We had that first year with Dave Lawson. When Dave Lawson came in, his program was made to expose people who weren't working hard, and it did.
Well, I think that the strength coach is going to be a huge part of it, and just having, what's the word that Sterling likes? Continuity.
Continuity, baby. Little
All right,
continuity.
let's go to the next tweet. Let's move through some of these. All right. Now they started getting on Garantano, the worst quarterback in recent UT history. Quarterback of a 4-8 team and a 5-7 team. There can't be a way in hell he ever starts another game. Next person says Christ would have added a spark, but Pruitt is too stubborn to play him. Drop ball you. I don't know if you guys heard this. Gary Danielson in the Missouri game pointed out, he's got, I guess, Pro Football Focus did the numbers. 1/4, 25% of all Tennessee's incompletions this year were drops.
Wow.
That's the worst number in the SEC. That is terrible. So for all the big plays where they've gone up and made the 50-50 catches, yesterday they were awful. They were dropping passes all over the place. And then the last one might be a question for Sterl. How well could he or any of Tennessee's seasoned successful quarterbacks have functioned after 2 years of being behind this line and the punishment equal to Garantano? All right, let's talk Garantano. That he took a lot of heat yesterday. I don't understand the killer Chris Love. I don't get it. I've seen him go in and throw picks. I've seen the offense look just as stagnant. I don't get it, but okay. But the Garantano thing, very quickly, only the second time all year he was under 50% accurate. He was probably more inaccurate yesterday than I've ever seen him. Second time this year that he was under 100 with quarterback rating. His interception streak snapped. I hinted at it last week. He had a concussion. I think he had a concussion. They put him back in the game. You're rolling your eyes, Sterling.
No, I'm not rolling my eyes. I'm like, he's taking some hits this year.
Well,
He's taking some
I thought he
hits.
looked like a guy who maybe shouldn't have been playing yesterday.
Well,
Am I wrong on that?
Well, this is what I would
didn't
like to
look
say
like
as far
himself.
as. Well, he didn't like himself. And no matter what, as a human body, you keep on getting hit, soreness is going to happen no matter how tough you are. It's the end of the year. After 12 games, getting hit like that. He had some drops, some key drops. Although he's cool, Jared, he's human. He may have gotten a little frustrated at some other people dropping those passes after he's getting hit for delivering the ball. And then you ask the question, what about the offensive line? Well, it was a time when I had an all NFL offensive line in front of me, and then they weren't playing good, and I had ways of motivating my offensive line. And that takes time, and here's my word again, continuity, team understanding. You know, you got to know what motivates your guys. And that's part of the quarterback position that unfortunately now is not as highlighted as it was when I played. Now it's all about numbers and touchdowns and percentages and QBR and RPOs. You know, let's get back into the personal relationship with our people that are protecting us. Give them some pizza. I'm just saying. Those are things you got to know to do with offensive line.
But after you get your teeth knocked out, he hasn't gotten. There are people like he holds on the ball too long. Chris gets rid of it. Blake Topmeyer, the Sentinel, I believe it was Blake, did a really good job after the Alabama game when everyone was saying that. Oh, well, Chris looked better because he got rid of the ball. He clocked it. Chris 2.1 from snap to pass. Garantano was 2.2. So I'm sure a lot of people there in the stands like, I saw it, a tenth of a second. I saw it. So he's not slow. I think if anything, he doesn't feel pressure enough at times. He doesn't act like he's gun shy from getting hit 50 times.
Right.
I thought that's why I thought he looked a little strange yesterday.
Last night
last
I thought he was more gun shy. Last night I thought it got to him, and I think he was like, I'm gonna get rid of it. You know, I'm not gonna take as much as I can. I think he threw some balls. I don't think he felt good playing. I think he was probably still injured. What that injury is, I don't know, but he didn't look like.
I know what it looked like.
He didn't look like he felt good.
Next year, is he your starter? Or are you hoping that JT
Yes.
Shrout beats him out?
Yes.
Now he's starter.
He's starter. Starter.
I said,
He's got room to improve himself.
does.
He needs to improve. But if he had
But most
I'm not one to throw things at people, and I'm not as educated in the lines as Will is. But if that line gets better, and he's
He'll
able to
improve.
be comfortable
There's no
back
doubt.
there.
He'll get better.
That's a big
And
if.
it's a big if. But if it happens, I think you're going to see a lot more production out of a guy who took punishment
If
this
he
year.
had a run game,
Even
that.
Pruitt has said that.
he'd be better
Yeah.
because he'd actually have a play action pass that anybody cared about. Right now, Vanderbilt played the run with 6 men in the box
And
most of the night.
And dropped
not it.
everybody else deep into zone coverage.
Not much
And
to
there's
do.
just nothing to do. Yeah.
Yeah, until they had the 75-yard run, then they added a 7th man in the box. But until that run, it was a 6-man front,
Yeah.
4 down, 2 linebackers, and that's what contained the run.
And how many times has Jeremy Pruitt said this year that
Ooh,
I wouldn't want
strong.
to play quarterback on the team that couldn't run the football?
Oh, yeah.
So
tough.
all of that plays into it. Does he have people hear this and they're like, "Oh, you're defending him. You think he's Tom Brady?" Nobody. That's an exaggeration. Nobody here says he's Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers. At the same time, once again, quarterback is not your biggest issue on this team.
No, it's not.
It's the
Definitely
lines.
not.
It's still the lines. That's why we've been saying
It's your
sign
front
line.
sevens on both sides of the ball.
Okay, let's go back. See the
Go.
next one. We're going to start smoking through these.
Smoke.
This guy was really into it last night. Hate to flog Helton, but it's so bad. In addition to multiple 4 and 5 wide sets where Garantano has no chance, Chandler had no carries or targets on the next 5 possessions after what should have been his game-changing run. Now, I will say he only had 7 carries in the game. Now, he came in. He had a tweaked knee coming in, so maybe that played a role on it, but he looked pretty good on the 75-yard run. Hank also added, Vandy knows many Vols didn't care, and Pruitt punting on consecutive series down 2, then 3 scores shows the coaches don't care. Horrendous low percentage play calling not helped by drops or rare chance for success. Thoughts on Helton and play calling, gentlemen?
That
He's
is-
taken a lot more heat than Pruitt on the defensive play calls. Your defense sucked as bad as your offense, but
After the 75-yard play, they added an extra man in the box.
Yeah.
And pretty much you hadn't been able to run with 6 men in the box. You had 1 lucky run, and now they added an extra man, which means you were going to get whipped even more. So they went to the passing game. And that's what they tried to do. They tried to spread it out so they got less men in the box and less pass rushers, potential pass rushers. But that's what they had to do and had to go to. They were getting whipped up front, 5 on 6 or 6 on 6, and their 6 were whipping our 6.
is this as simple as every school, well, hell, every pro team, every fan base falls in love with the backup quarterback.
Yes.
Doesn't matter what he does,
Yeah.
they love him anyway.
That's
He'd come
fair.
in and pee down his leg like Peterman, and people still go, well, he could give him a spark. And just as true, anywhere you go, the most hated man in town is the offensive coordinator because everybody thinks they can call plays.
Absolutely.
I knew it was coming. I said run, as if they got a 2-page playbook. Run, pass.
It's funny sitting. I had the opportunity to be a fan for the first time this year, and sitting next to some of our fans. It's amazing how they say, "Well, I'm getting ready to do this," and then we do it, and it doesn't work. They should have done that. You know, you have the luxury of sometimes, you know, being hindsight 2020 as a fan.
And we all do it as armchair.
And we all do
right?
exactly.
Yeah,
But
watching
and
my
I
teams.
want to put a caveat on what Will just said. That run that Ty Chandler made wasn't just a great run; it was an exceptional run. He made 2 people miss. So yes, they bring one more person to the box. You got 7 people in the box with a spread offense. You should be able to get someone open if you got 7 in the box and you got 4 trying to cover 4 receivers. You should.
And you could.
And when we unfortunately had some unfortunate drops.
You had some drops,
Had
you
some
had some bad
drops,
throws.
and some of those. But you know, it's just yes, it was a hard day. Like I said, I have never had my mental game tested to the point where I had to rebound off consecutive blowout losses. So I could only imagine, I can't speak educated or experience-wise what the players feel like dealing with that. That's tough.
Next tweets. Hey JP, here's a question to the VFLs on the show. How would you tell the fan base not to take all the years of ups and downs and put the last 10 years of mediocrity all on Coach Pruitt as he moves into year 2? It's a great question. I remember we talked about that when Butch Jones was here because you'd been through it, and we started calling it sins of the father because people are tired, rightfully so. They're tired of people saying patient, be patient. Because it feels like now they had 2 top 25 finishes that get glossed over and everybody acted like it was 2 and 10. You had 2 good years in there, but the most people are tired of not having championships, and I get that. And the problem is, whoever the new coach is, in this case Pruitt, you just inherit all that venom,
Yeah.
and the venom's real. Again, if I'm buying tickets, I want to see wins. I don't go there and watch them lose by 25 points every week. How do you tell fans be patient at this point? Can you? I mean, other than it's reality, what else can you do?
It's hard to tell them to be patient after yesterday. You mentioned all the venom that we inherited. It's still not 25 points. We're not as bad as we lost yesterday.
Yeah.
So to tell the fans to be patient after yesterday and the Missouri finish up, I feel like that'd be unfair. Yeah.
But the unfortunate part is where you're not good doesn't get fixed with one recruiting class.
That's right.
And so I don't know how to, you know, there's no way, there's no free agency. There's no way to go sign 50 guys. There's no way to go pick 2 guys up from this team and put them over here. You just are where you are. And unfortunately, the way college football is structured, if you're bad in those front 7 spots, it does take a couple of years. And unfortunately, we're really bad in those spots.
Yeah, and it hamstrings everything else. We talked about this on the radio with Jimmy and John Wilkerson this week. If you get a bad offensive line, it cancels that. You can have 4 and 5 stars at receiver and running back and quarterback. If you don't have an offensive line, cancels all the rest of that out.
Ask the New
For the
York
most
Giants. They're talking about their they have a great wide receiver, and he's a great toy.
Well,
But you can't do anything with it.
Yeah, Saquon Barkley's been great this year, and they still suck because what was I going to say? Something about the quarterback situation. Hell with it. Couldn't have been that important. Your thoughts, guys, on people having their patience tested? How many more times can you? How do you tell them don't take this out on Pruitt, other than just saying that, and they're either going to hear it or not? I don't know how you convince
I'm
people.
going to let Daniel go first. I got something to say to that. Go ahead, Dan.
I don't know, and I really don't even know how to respond to it because it's kind of one of those things that if you're taking it out on him, then that's on you, you know, as a person. You know, when I watch the team, I love and want them to win everything else, but the key to, at least in my life, key to being happy is to have low expectations and then just try to be a little bit better. And so when I watch the team and I watch Darrell Taylor, I watch Kyle Phillips and see him, you know, Darrell Taylor I think is probably your most improved guy on the team. And see him
Depends
just
on the game, but okay.
Yeah. But, I mean, to still put
Yeah.
those sack numbers up from what he did the year before. And, you know, Kyle Phillips, I think, made himself a lot of money this year in how he played.
Yeah.
And so you go out there and you watch that and you enjoy those moments. You know, you're not going to get the big wins right now, but you can at least enjoy that stuff.
Here's the one thing you could take. You could look at our basketball program. There are a lot of people on our basketball program a couple years ago said, this coach is done. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's not getting the 5-star guys. He's getting these guys. His system doesn't work. He's over the hill, blah, 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 blah. Then last year happened. So it took him it took him a couple of years to get there. But maybe you take that and you say, hopefully that's like this.
Well, here's the question, and we don't know what Pruitt's going to be, but he talks a lot about I need better players. I never heard Barnes say that.
Yeah.
Barnes came in and said, "This is my team." And Barnes had a bunch of 3-stars. And what you're talking about is he did it with a bunch of 3- and 4-star guys. He didn't do it with a bunch of 5-star guys. Now he's starting to get those guys in.
But he
now.
didn't have a lot of success when they weren't his guys.
Yeah, the first
getting
2
his
years.
guys-
But by year 3, he had a pretty.
But
yeah.
he's getting his guys in, and that's the difference, not having your guys for your
Gotcha.
scheme and your players.
Gotcha.
But I think those guys even played hard for
That's what
Donnie
I'm-
Tyndall. It went back when he was a coach. Like I don't think there was ever that effort question or that type of stuff. What you had at the end of the season with Butch Jones is just one of the worst things I've ever seen in football.
And then again this year.
Yeah.
Just 2 years in a row you
Yeah.
quit.
But I mean, you're talking about 80% of your team is still those guys, and so now you're going to drop to that 60% level.
Sterling, you want to jump in on this one? Or?
I want to jump into the point when people start, the fans, people start to question patience and should we wait and we want a championship. I've got to believe that those guys that have put countless hours in at this craft, this game we love called football, they want a championship also. Now, I'm quite sure they're a lot more disappointed than most fans are at themselves right now. But this is what I'm saying. As players, we don't play to lose. Trust that. So if you want the players to keep on fighting, and we may have, some of my colleagues here may have believed some of the fight left toward the end of yesterday's game, and it could be argued that happened, but the reality is no one liked that. So if you don't like watching it, why would you quit? Why would you stop your patience? Why would you stop your bleeding orange? Why would you stop your fight for the Tennessee Volunteer Football Team? Get there. Be a part of the change, because when it happens, then the bandwagon might leave and you can't get on. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
True story.
That's the only way to end this season positive.
Yeah.
Exactly
Hey.
right there.
All right. Well, unfortunately, we got one more question to get to. Vol's new tradition may be having the worst offensive line in the country.
Not going to end up positive.
No improvement at all this year. Fundamentals lacking on both sides of the ball. Does Pruitt have an SEC staff? And here's the thing I find funny about this. It was 11 months ago. People were celebrating like hell over the fact that everybody on the staff either played or coached at an SEC school. They're all champions. They're all winners. They're all ring bearers. They're studs. And now it's just an SEC staff. We'll leave it on that one. I think it's interesting that I think the staff is still pretty good.
Yes.
You know, it's year one with a first-year head coach. They have a learning curve just as the players have a learning curve. I think. I may be wrong, but I think that you would hope year 2 they get a little better. They mesh more. I just think that you're going to look as far as Kirby Smart. He inherited a team, and everybody said, well, he'll win 9-10 games his first year at Georgia. Rick lost him a gold mine. 7-5. 7-5. So he sucks, right? No, year 2 he takes that same roster and goes to the college football championship game. So was that because suddenly the talent changed? He changed an 80-man roster? No, it's because he's a better coach in year 2 than he was in year 1, I think is probably the obvious answer. So when you look at this staff, I think it's way too early for people to start questioning the staff, including Helton. I wouldn't go down that road at this point. Let's see what these guys do in year 2 before we start calling for heads. That'd be my take.
Yeah, no doubt. Year 1, you should never judge a staff. Even if they came out and blew the doors off, doesn't mean they can recruit the players that fit their system on an ongoing basis. Can you lead a program? It's not can you lead 1 year.
Yeah.
Ask Texas A&M. They went out and gave Kevin Sumlin that
That's right.
monster deal because of that first year was through the roof, and then every year after.
And what was the Florida coaches that I think his first year won 9 games and then
No.
got fired 2 years later?
McElwain, and then you
Yeah.
had Muschamp Muschamp had a year where he went 4 games, but he had an 11-win season in
Got a
the
coach down in Auburn right now, that people are
national
questioning. That
championship
same-
game his first year.
That's right. Same thing. So don't judge it on year 1, no matter how good or how bad. Year 1 is not the judgment stick that you grade anybody by.
Right, and we did that during the show, and I think, what did we have? We had C-, D,
Yeah.
C-,
B, C+.
Yes.
None of that is what we think Pruitt's going to do for his career. That was simply what do we think he did this year with this team.
Yes.
Because anybody who's out there, and I thought this was silly, with any coach, but you heard people say, well, I knew when Butch didn't go for it against Oklahoma, he wasn't going to be a good coach. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. You were one of those people who said he sucks, and you waited until he did suck. And usually when you say that about somebody, the odds are they're going to suck because most guys in this field get fired. But you don't know anything about these guys after 1 year. So anybody right now saying to me, Pruitt's the guy, guaranteed. Wrong. There's no guarantee in that. Pruitt can't do it. Pruitt's never going to beat 7 or 8 wins. Wrong. You have no idea. I have no idea. Yeah. There's no way to know after what we've seen this year.
Nope.
After what he inherited, no way of knowing. Will we have a little bit more knowledge next year?
Yep.
Start to make judgments next year? Year 3, that's when you start putting the foot down and saying, okay, no more blowout losses to Vandy are acceptable here. But year 3, then you're going to have a better idea of what you got.
You're going to see a trajectory, one way or the other. Is it flatline? Is it up? Or is it down?
And sometimes the trajectory can be misleading, as it was with Butch Jones.
Yes, it can.
Yeah, it was misleading.
5-7, 7-6 bowl game, 9-4 bowl game, top 25, flatline 9-4, and then down. But after 3 years of Butch Jones, you're thinking, except for those people who knew he would suck after the Oklahoma game, you're looking at it being fair, saying, well, it's going in the right direction.
Right.
But it takes more than a year to judge these guys. So, yes, they have an SEC caliber staff. All of these guys either played or coached in the SEC before. Absolutely. So, with the exception of Helton, I think. I think Helton's the only one.
Oh, so
And-
that's why he needs to go.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. He was at puny USC. What do they know? Okay. Sterling, Daniel, Will, Brian, thanks again. I appreciate it. Thanks to our staff who was willing to sit here for extra time today. I'm going to go buy them lunch. Thank you very much. We'll see you. I'm looking at the wrong camera. We'll see you next Sunday at 11 on WATE 6. Thank you.